For more on this, I want to bring in Bruce Hoffman. He's a senior fellow in counterterrorism and homeland security at the Council on Foreign Relations and a professor at Georgetown University. Bruce, thank you very much for taking the time. What stood out from that White House briefing to you?
Just really how shambolic this whole process is and how everyone is doing their best and working their hardest to evacuate both U.S. citizens, green card holders, and indeed the many Afghans, not only the SIV, the special visa category individuals, but others who are deeply in danger there.
And tell me how that is going in terms of, this is now happening, as the White House has said, the president has said that another attack is highly likely, perhaps.
Right. Well, it perplexes me that the possibility of attacks, especially from ISIS-K, wasn't built into the security plan surrounding the airport. There should have been multiple layers of security by U.S. and the former Afghan military and the Taliban on top of that. The fact that we sort of went about the evacuation blindly without really considering the possibility of attacks from a group that has attacked girls' schools, that has attacked hospitals, that has attacked all sorts of civilian targets really just perplexes one.
So tell me about that. Is this a failure of the U.S. military in terms of trying to secure that area, or is it a failure of? It's a failure of something. What do you think?
Well, much as the 9/11 Commission had concluded nearly 2 decades ago, it was a deep failure of the imagination. It was certainly a policy failure because there had to be the policy and the contingency planning surrounding such an evacuation at such a rapid pace that then would have been communicated to the military and that the military would have executed. I mean, it's astonishing. I'm getting emails this morning from people in Afghanistan begging me, an ordinary civilian, a professor, for help in escaping. This shows that planning was lamentable is about the only word that comes to mind.
How did we get here? How did we get to this day with this attack that took place yesterday, with this mad scramble to get people out within a few days? How did all of this happen?
Well, the same wishful thinking that I think really overshadows a lot of our attitude towards the terrorist threat and the instability of Afghanistan. We thought that the Taliban, going back now over 2 years, would be a responsible negotiating partner. We've seen the Taliban and its serial negotiations of what was, not really a negotiation, but rather we made it clear that we were leaving and handed them the shop, as it were. I think it's been wishful thinking that the Taliban could be any kind of an effective security buffer to allow Americans and other persons to escape. This belief that we could control terrorism within Afghanistan, which the tragic events of yesterday clearly underscore that we can't. And also that going forward, Afghanistan won't become some kind of a base for terrorist operations, whether it's to destabilize the region or whether it's a renegade terrorist organization like ISIS-K that's against the Taliban as much as they're opposed to the United States.
What does it say that, we're fast approaching the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and here we are with a U.S. White House press secretary, amplifying, I think, what the president said yesterday, saying that they are going to go after those that committed this attack, this ISIS-K group, and kill them. That this is going to be an ongoing operation, probably in the weeks and months, maybe years ahead.
Well, I certainly believe and support that pledge that the president's made. I think the problem is it's going to be very difficult to carry out. I mean, think about it. For the past few years, the United States, the Afghan security establishment, the Taliban, and al-Qaeda were all waging war on ISIS-K and did not eliminate ISIS-K. Now going forward, we're really just going to have to rely on the Taliban and its al-Qaeda allies. I mean, that in and of itself speaks to the sorry situation that we're in. But more to the point, by withdrawing our military, and just as the press secretary said today, we're also withdrawing our diplomatic personnel. We'll have no embassy. We'll have no intelligence window into Afghanistan. In order to make good on the president's pledge, we will be relying on the human intelligence coming from the Taliban to track down ISIS-K. I mean, given the events of the past week or so, and certainly the events of the past 24 hours, if we have a lot of confidence that that's going to bear fruit, we just haven't seen it to date. So maybe things will change, but I tend to doubt it.
And then what is going to happen to the thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of Afghans that could be at risk under Taliban rule?
There's certainly going to be enormous refugee problems that are going to really submerge the surrounding countries, as was the case with Pakistan, for example, in the 1990s. But also we have to think of the human cost of these persons who are being left behind. Again, I'm receiving emails this morning from people who are telling me that the Taliban is going door to door asking their relatives where they can find these people. Now, that's pretty obvious. The Taliban is putting more of an emphasis on hunting down former members of the Afghan government and security forces than they are on keeping the airport safe. And that's one reason that yesterday the ISIS-K was able to stage that horrific attack.
Should the Americans stay in Afghanistan beyond August 31st?
It becomes increasingly difficult in the current circumstances to imagine that, because
I mean the
The
military.
Taliban,
Sorry, I meant to be
no,
more
I know.
clear.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
No, yeah, no. I mean, it's much more difficult now because there's a rump military force that has been reinserted into Afghanistan. The Taliban itself is completely opposed to that, and the United States can't risk U.S. military personnel being attacked not only about ISIS-K, as we saw tragically yesterday, but also by the Taliban and by al-Qaeda. And also, the Haqqani network, which are close allies of al-Qaeda, are providing security in Kabul. They're, in essence, the Kabul police force. So the dangers of remaining beyond August 31st are quite profound.
Bruce, it was good to get your insight. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
That's Bruce Hoffman, a senior fellow in counterterrorism and homeland security at the Council on Foreign Relations and a professor at Georgetown University, joining us from Washington.